Right, so the final phase in this project of our Twitter bot with Yahoo Finance attached onto it is we've got everything running. Our code runs. So what we want to do now is basically make it run once per hour, basically for, forever, but pretty much for the period of a year. So if I adjust again, if I hit F5 on here just to run everything. So just if we look down the bottom, our Twitter thing must be firing up or doing whatever it needs to do. There we go. We've authenticated. That's done. And then we do a tweet created. So we've done a tweet. Oh, sorry, we've authenticated. So I'm just down here at the bottom. So we've done our tweet here. Or we've authenticated. That done means authenticated. So actually, what I will put is just for clarity, I guess here, authentication complete. Right. Authentication complete. So this done will now be authentication completed. So we're done there. And then we print out for ourselves the weighted index average price. And that's just kind of like for ourselves. So this is what will go into the tweet. And then we actually over there, and so we've got the price and the time, so we've done that. And then do we do anything else? Then we jump straight to our make a tweet code over here. So go to definition to make a tweet. I'm just trying to look at the print statements that are there, just so that we understand what's coming out in the console. And we print out N, which is over here, the date time. So we're printing out the date time, but kind of like, do we need to? I'm just wondering if we need to, because that's kind of like the same. All we're doing is printing out date time actually, so that doesn't do anything now. So, and I don't think we use the date time. Oh, we do. We use it here, tweet string. Okay. Interestingly enough, n equals datetime.datetime.now, which is right up here, which is this one. And in our tweet string, so we're literally printing that line, print n, 160227. But when we print it here, oh yeah, that's what's coming back. When we, no, it's not. Tweet, oh yeah, that's a tweet string. Oh yeah, it's a result from the dictionary. Yeah, okay, so there's two different times. But anyway, to avoid confusion, because this print is effectively replicating the print above, because basically they're both getting the datetime thing. And the only difference between this one here is it's doing it in a non-formatted way, but we don't need that. So let's just, that's going into here anyway. That was just what was going in there. So we can remove this. We don't want to print in there. And this is just for our console thing. So we now have omitted effectively this line. It will be deleted. So I'm just looking down the bottom basically. This line here, I'll cross it out now. It won't be there anymore. And this line here, when we had the word done, we've now written, what did we write? Just above somewhere, we wrote, scrolling up to it, probably if I scroll too far. Oh yeah, we did authentication complete here. So there was, I haven't got a text thing, so auth complete. This is literally just for ourselves. So we do this authentication over here, like all of this stuff. That's only going to run once because we only need to authenticate once. Maybe we need to authenticate again if it sort of like breaks down or something, like once every 100 loops or something. We might have to consider doing that. But in reality, we should only have to authenticate once. And then we can tweet ad infinitum. So I don't know if the authentication, we do get a timeout here. So I wonder if you haven't printed a tweet once every hour. So maybe I make it like 59 minutes or something like that, or every 30 minutes more frequently. But if you haven't printed, so that was that timeout bit over there. So we'll see about that. We'd like to ideally leave this out and only run it once, because then we can leave a whole chunk out of the code. Or at least we don't want this coming in every time, and we don't like. We're happy that we've authenticated. So all we really want to see is a list of or things in our editor. What do we want to see come back? So I'll change them to green. So get rid of that. So like change it to green there. We want this because it's kind of like useful. It tells us the index price and when it was generated. And we potentially want, well, yeah, we potentially want this. We want when the tweet is done. So we want to see that. And this is a nicety to have. We kind of like want that. So we want these green things. We want these yellow things too, the authentication, but we want it like once. So the yellow ones, we want this one time. Like we don't need to, unless we have to authenticate multiple times. And this whole big block of authentication stuff over here, kind of like we only want that one time. So all the yellow things, we just want it to run one time, and the greens we want it to run every time we go through the loop, because that is obtaining the price from Yahoo Finance and then posting, then doing our mini algo, which is creating this index, and then finally posting that out to Twitter once per hour. So we want to see this kind of stuff once per hour. And yeah, we've got a little notification of the UTC. So that's what we want to do. So I think it's as easy as, I hit delete there because we don't need that now. I think it will be as easy as putting, at least to start with as a tester, to do a for loop. And we had here, Windows scheduler, task scheduler in Windows, or a loop. So we're going to try, I think it's just easier to try a for loop basically. Just because you can just leave it in Python and run the script and let it run forever. So for I in range, right, and we're just going to, I wonder even if we could print code success. We could print our loop number because we've got a loop number I. So we'll use that variable I. We could have done a placeholder kind of like for underscore or X, or just even keep it as I but never use it, but we'll utilize it since it's there. It's descriptive because then we can see how many loops we run. So for I in range, and this is the nice thing, I did actually pre-calculate this, but basically, the clue is over there, how many hours are in a year, kind of. Like if we wanted it to run for a year continuously, 24/7, posting things even at night, even though, well, the futures are open. Some futures are open after hours. Even the futures market, I think, closes. So it's only really Bitcoin that moves overnight. So Bitcoin sometimes does move 10 and 20%. So I won't say that it does. The index won't change its value, but it'll get nominal changes. So what's going to actually happen in terms of price movements is, so like you'll get these big price movements in the day, and then so like overnight you might get some sort of like little price movement, and then you get big price movements again as people come in, and little ones. So and the reason that you get little ones is because only one product is only one of the things that we have is potentially trading here, which is Bitcoin, and so it has whatever its weighting is. I think we had the weighting at like 20%. So only 20% of our index has the capability of actually even changing its price. We can see our weightings somewhere as a reminder to ourselves, because we've got it. There we go. Bitcoin's 20%. So even if Bitcoin like moves a huge amount, it's not the same as if everything kind of like moves up all in one go. So that's just something to bear in mind anyway. But we've got our for loop for I in range, and what I wanted to do was, like if we have 365 days in the year, and then 24 hours a day, and then say we want to run it for, I don't know, 2 years. I mean, 1 year is already 10,000, so 2 years 20,000. you know, computer programming languages, 20,000 is like child's play for a computer programming language. So we'll easily handle that. 20,000. Right. Now we could just do a while loop. So we could just do while. So like, I don't know, date time is, you know, not a certain date time. So it doesn't really matter whether we do a for loop or a while loop. Kind of like, it's pretty much going to be the same thing, I think, for the purpose of running. So that's it. And we just need to indent. What did I hit? Did I hit caps lock there? No, tab. Okay, I just didn't hit the tab button properly. So everything's indented, so all of this stuff will run. Whereas this stuff up the top won't run. And that's kind of like the way we want it, at least now. Although if we see ourselves getting signed out, and I don't know from the Twitter web pages if that's the case or not. So like, can you be signed out in Twitter about the Twitter API? What's new? Tweet caps post. There's sort of like limits. Oh, sorry, I should bring it over here. I'm reading it on the side and not reading it in front of you on the screen. So now it's on the screen. Let's get that calc out my way. One project limits. One project. I know that I can run this. Funnily enough, one project apps. One app per project. That's interesting because I'm already running a second app and it's perfectly fine and it's been tweeting out, and I ran this one in parallel. So this is a free tier. So we're on the free tier. Tweet caps per post. I don't even know what that is. Tweet caps per pull. I don't know what a tweet cap is. So, but anyway, they're kind of like limits. We're not going to hit any limit. We're posting once an hour. So we're not like any high speed things or anything remotely like that. It's more, I don't know what caps means. Like, don't know. No idea. Let's go down. What I was looking for was sort of like a timeout. If there was anything mentioned. There's no timeout mentioned here. This get stuff here, will it be? I mean, it's too short even to have a timeout mentioned. I could search for Twitter API timeout or something like that. Let's see, authentication. Let's see if there's anything in that other than authenticating, like how long you're authenticated for. Just having a little browse of it. We could just run it and observe it empirically and decide, but it doesn't look like there's any timeout things so far. Similarly, the simplest way to authenticate your developer account is to generate access code and tokens. Okay, we've got a method of doing it. Really, it'd be nicer to migrate to the 2.0 version, but you know, we've got a working thing that's going to work and, you know, do 10,000 tweets perfectly fine. So it's not a problem there. For list of scopes, no. Fetch token, I'm still looking for. I could do a word search, you know, for timeout, but it's kind of like looking through to see if there's any clues or anything. Everything's about authenticating. Otherwise, instance handler. There's no mention of timings, as in when you get logged out. You can then use your instance. So consumer secret, access token, callback. We've got no callbacks there anyway. Consumer secret. So yeah, there's nothing that's telling us that we're going to be timed out. Token updater. Method with one argument token to be used to update your token database on automatic refresh. If not set, a token update warning will be raised when a token is refreshed. This warning will carry the token in its argument. Okay. I guess we'll see if it stops tweeting. So yeah, nothing that's immediate, although that was a slight concern, possibly. I could do a search for Twitter API timeout. That might be a useful one. So Twitter API time out. OU timeout. There we go. Twitter API timeout. Let's have a look. Rate limits. But that's more like rates, as if you're doing too many things. Here's a Stack Overflow. I'm trying to develop an application integrating Twitter and collect all followers with their tweets. But in some point, Twitter gives timeout and won't work till the next day. Is there a solution for this? The Twitter API has rate limits. Well, this guy's breaching rate limits. We're not going to breach rate limits. So it's pointing actually to the same rate limit thing, I think. So let's just go to it anyway. Every day, 1,000 users use Twitter API. I guess we're version 1 and 2, even though the same kind of rules will apply. Delete. These are the sorts of amounts of things that you can do. So with the basic one, you can do like something every 15 minutes window of time. So you can sort of like delete 2 tweets. I don't know what delete 2 tweets per AM is or whatever, but it looks like you can do a certain number of operations per unit time. Maybe if I expand this. No, that's not really. I think that's. Well, if I click on it and scroll across. Oh, there you go. There's some scrolling across. Let's see the other headers. Yeah, like in 30 days you can do 14,400 tweets and whatever, or those things. So that's not really going to affect us. The getting thing is not going to affect us either. So I just don't think we're going to be affected. I was looking for like a time thing, as in, you know, if you haven't tweeted for a certain amount of time, do you become in? Does a Twitter API become inactive, and then you have to re-authenticate? So that's 450 requests for a 15-minute interval. Interesting, because we got 450. I should be able to do this in top of my top. 450 divided by 15, so that's 30 tweets per minute. So yeah, that was per 15 minutes. Yeah, so 30. You'd have to do 30 tweets per minute, which is already, you know, it's a decent amount because it's 60 seconds. So it's a tweet every 2 seconds, basically, is what you're allowed to do. So before you start breaching things, but I don't think we'd get anywhere close to that. We know we're not getting anywhere close to that. And I've been tweeting once every 10 minutes. I've been tweeting once every hour as well. I tweet once every hour. And again, this thing here is this rate limit remaining is for like until you like get through your you got a rate, and they do it like per 15-minute blocks, I think. So we don't have to worry about that. So everything's about being rate limited. That is more about spamming the system, you know, which you don't want like the API people to like police you too much, because then your API on, you know, a place like Twitter isn't free. Well, Twitter probably isn't free anyway, to be fair. But that's a different. That's a political discussion and not a coding one. But what Twitter should certainly be entitled to do is limit people, because you don't want someone DDoSing or spamming the system in some way, or even if it's just by accident, where you sort of like do this and you get your calculation wrong because you forget to like do seconds, because we are going to do a wait, like a sleep or something. So we're going to actually do that now. So we've imported date time, but I think it's time that does the best sleeping thing. Import, because we're just going to do a time.sleep time. And again, because I'm like, even though I've done this 100 times, people say, oh, you're a bad coder because you can't do this. But I will go here and do. I was asked this question, by the way, to maximize your chances. Oh, no, here it was. This question is a coding interview question. Spend 20 years in investment banks trading $250 billion of derivatives, and someone asks you about 25 snails. So I thought I'd stick it to ChatGPT because, yeah, that's about all of that question was worth. You have 25 snails and you're conducting a race amongst 5 snails to find out their relative speed. At no point can you find out the actual speed of the snail in the race. Find the minimum number of races to distinguish the top 3, which is a mathematical question. So like, some sort of thing. But here's a procedure. Funnily enough, it's not really a very mathematical procedure that's given back when it comes to 7. And then it comes out with this, like, here's the assumption is that snails are indistinguishable and they can't race and they got different. And it's kind of like, yeah, it's great until you actually want to do it in real life. So yeah, but let's go on, and we're going to do the pause or stop code, pause code for 60 seconds in Python. Right. In fact, let's do pause code for 1 hour. There we go. Why not just get it explicitly to do exactly what we want? And it's going to tell us to use a sleep function. I'm just wondering if there's any bits that I need to do. So, and this is what I was talking about before, which is a better approach would be to use a scheduler like cron or systemd or app scheduler to schedule a function to run after a certain amount of time, which, yeah, in Windows it would be Task Manager. Why is it better to pause a code? However, since you want to pause a code for 1 hour, which is a very long time, it is not recommended to use a sleep function for such a long duration, as it will block execution of your program at the time. Well, we don't care about that because we're not doing anything else in the code apart from waiting. So we're perfectly fine with that. And actually, we'd rather not run a window process every hour, but in particular. So app scheduler, that's that option. Okay, I'm just going to do the time.sleep. Use time.sleep. There we go. Just going to do that. Yeah, there we go. Because I'm too lazy to do that. Well, I actually just wanted to check, but this will be in seconds, so pause for an hour. I'm just going to take this one. I don't need to listen to the ChatGPT. It's great, but it gives you a lot of drivel sometimes before and afterwards. Like when you want to just get standard things quite quickly, and you can't be bothered to Google them. ChatGPT is great, but it sort of like feels that it needs to explain everything to you, and kind of like you want to truncate that or cut that off, because sometimes, like in this case, I'm just trying to go fast. So we're here in the bit over here at the, I guess at the end. So we'll run our first one and then do the time.sleep, and again our indentation will go out of whack. Because so we pause for an hour. When we first run this, we're not going to do 20,000 loops, right? We're just going to do a tester, and we're going to do 20 loops, and we will not pause for an hour, but we will pause for, say, 36 seconds. There we go. So we've got to put in 2 more zeros, and we've got to put in 3 more zeros up here. So that should be it, and that should run our code every 36 seconds. So I'll hit F5 because I'm keen to see it go. So the authentication happens, and then we get, like, this is a much cleaner output here, because now we're only getting, these lines, because we're going to have this running. We're not going to have it running in VS Code. So there's our 2 lines, and there's our true. So it's relatively clean. Our authentication is done in the same way. So now we know it's complete. Oops, I used the wrong thing there. So delete that. Our authentication is done over here. So we've authenticated. The question is, do we need all of this now? Possibly not. Retry errors, timeout 60. And that's it. I've probably spoken for 36 seconds now. And hopefully our next piece will come in. We're hoping for that. or is it not? I was hoping to see something happen there. So have we tweeted more, or has it broken? Okay, fine. Yeah, it looks like it's working. Okay, that's good. And like, okay, this is everything. The nice thing about this is, well, I was going to say the nice thing. Yeah, it's fine. Although these, we could truncate so that's the tweet created that, so that's fine. That's the tweet timestamp. We'll go and have a look at our tweets, so that's good. We'll get 20 loops. It's not the end of the world. We'll get 20 prints of the index that comes in. I could stop it because we know it's working now. You know what? I'll hit stop. It's going. It's doing its thing. We'll just hit stop. We're comfy with that. What I wanted to put in actually was code success R and then loop number. I guess we could print the loop number first. Right at the top. Print loop number. And our first loop number, and loop number is going to be I. Our first loop number, that's just to tell us where we're at. And if I had done that before, it would have, we'd have got 1, 2, 3, 4. It would have been on like loop number 4 as I was speaking, because it was 4 lots of 36 seconds. So we're here. We pause for an hour now. We get our loop numbers, and it looks like we are now fully complete. We just go and inspect our Twitter feed. So, and I need to tell the 6040 guy that all of that's done, and just going to go onto the homepage of Twitter and my feed, hopefully. And there we go. Everything works. We can pat ourselves on the back. We've got a bit of spam in the middle because you have to like listen to other people's spam. Who to follow, don't care. And that's it. We get our index price, and we've got a timestamp of when that came in. We didn't need a timestamp because Twitter feeds have their own stamping thing anyway. We did want this timestamp to, well, we could get rid of the decimals from the timestamp. Because we're running it once every hour, this will automatically be unique. So I will actually we'll clean that tiny bit up. It's basically this piece here is kind of like all we need. We don't need to see the multi fractions of a decimal. If we were attempting to or if you had the possibility of tweeting more than once per second with the index staying at the same level, then Twitter would see duplicates. Twitter's never going to see a duplicate. Quite frankly, because we're doing it once per hour, we don't even really need to put the minutes in, because or the hours, minutes, seconds, we could just have 1625, because then it'd be 1725, 1825. So we can definitely get rid of that. So let's just do that. Actually, I think that'll be our final thing to get rid of, and then we'll actually run it. So I didn't mean to even I can just delete the whole thing there like that. Bin. There we go. All gone. And let's just check that everything's going there. Yeah. So that was in our tweet. Make a tweet here. So go to definition, and where was it in our tweet? Oh, a timestamp here, and we can steal a bit of this, I think, which is that strf time bit for formatting the time. So that is going to be up here, basically, this time.now, because we want to string format the time. That's what it actually means, string format time. for time. So we just go back to the tweets thing. And where are we? Over here. We could paste it in here, but I think we're going to just put it into here because that's what makes its way. That's our tweet string. So there we go. Because maybe for some reason we still want our official time, but we only want hours, minutes, seconds. And the question is do we even want seconds in there? I'm wondering. What I have noticed about seconds on Twitter, because I post every hour, it's quite interesting. The seconds moves by about 15, because this is 16/20/18. And if I scroll down to look at the one before it, it is date time there, 16/20/11. Why is that one different? I was looking hour to hour, basically. 15/19/53. So there was like 17 seconds there. Well, there's 7 seconds till the end there and then 11 there. So that's 18 seconds gap. And I was like, is that a one-off? And this is 16 or 14/19. So it's like 19 and it's 34. So it looks like another 17 seconds or so. Let's do the actual calculation. But somehow, is that the orbit of the Earth, like slowly over time, we're losing 17 seconds no, we can't be losing 17 seconds an hour. So something in the code that I've got, have I not assumed, like, I don't know, like the number of seconds in an hour? Did I get that not right? But that was 53 and that's 34. So 53 minus 34 is 19 seconds. So there seems to be, and I'm presuming that this is 34 minus 18, so 34 minus 18, 16 seconds. So on average, there's about 15 or 16 seconds delay between one and the next. It might be a case of it taking time, that when we send a tweet, that it takes time for the tweet to get in, to be processed or something, and that's the time it takes. It's a bit of an odd one, just something that I've noticed, that when you're doing all of the coding stuff, you tend to, and you're like really start inspecting your numbers because you're actually looking at times, that you notice that. It's not going to be a big deal for this thing, but like, if I was doing something more time sensitive, then I might consider that to be problematic. So I think that's it. We formatted that, so we can basically run it. And this is the thing about everything, is that our code lives, so copy relative path there, or no, the copy path, there we go. And in order to run this, I would need to, so I'll bring this over here. I'm going to create a new, I wonder if I'll just do a new command prompt and then do G for Google, and then do CD to this bit here. So that's kind of like the Twitter path, that's why I've got it. And then do Python, and finally, whatever we're going to run, which is the new 6040.py. And that's how you'd normally do it, which is, that's fine. We could set it up in a script to automatically do it, so when Windows starts, it's straight away there, because every now and again Windows likes to do a reboot every couple of weeks without even warning you. You can switch those off, but it still does those types of things. So you could have it launch once and then just run the tweet. But this tweet should just run now forever. But before I try to run it forever, it occurred to me, did I put that loop back in? Otherwise it will stop after 20 loops. No, so I didn't. Let's make sure we put that back in. So we're doing 20,000. That would run effectively for a couple of years quite easily, once every hour, every 3,600 seconds. But it's probably not 3,600 seconds, or I don't know, like hours don't fit quite into the days, but that's fine. So I think that's it. And I better hit save on that. Control S. So we never need to revisit this code anymore, other than running it over here. So we hit run. We do our authentication. Authentication's completed, and we're on loop number 0. And I'm definitely not going to be talking in this video for long enough to even get to the next loop. But that's kind of like it. I might sign on another one where we're like 50 loops down, so maybe in 2 days, and do like a 5-minute video just to see how it's performed. So we'll either get timed out or something, or thrown out or something like that, or it's just going to work. I have a strong feeling that this is just going to work. So that's a Twitter bot in Python. And the last thing I was going to say is basically, yeah, this command prompt, and that's the whole thing about this, is we've got this command prompt over here, and it's going to just kind of like sit at the side of the PC and run its thing. You know, and this terminal is exactly the same. It's just an integrated command prompt. So, you know, these are equal to each other. So it's just an integrated command prompt that's convenient to run inside of your IDE, your integrated development environment. This isn't even a fully fledged IDE. This is actually Visual Studio Code is just like a text editor. It's a glorified text editor, so it's very lightweight and very fast, which is why it's really popular with the community. There's other ones as well. There's like Notepad++ and things like that, and Atom and things. But this one seems to be the most convenient of all of them. So I think we have come to the end. We have successfully come to the end of... I'm going to move this away because there's nothing really to see now. Because it's going to sit there for an hour and do nothing and then run at the next hour. We know it runs every minute, and all we did was change, or every 36 seconds. We did that, and all we did is put back the 2 O's because there's that many seconds in an hour, as in there is 60 seconds per minute times by 60 minutes per hour, which is 3,600 seconds, which I felt the need to ask ChatGPT for. And that's it. That's the end of everything. That is our Twitter bot amalgamated with Yahoo Finance, and it's all done. So yeah, if you can hit the like button and do the subscribe and do the follows, that would be really useful. The subscribe button is kind of like at the top or the bottom. Watch other videos, comment. Definitely let me know what's good and what's bad, because some feedback would be extremely useful. And I'm going to move on to some other projects. I'll find something new to do. I've got that ChatGPT one still to finish. I'm only part way through. That's much more complicated. But yeah, and I'll see you on another video somewhere.